Hi friends, this is Naren.R from Naren System Talk. It's been a pleasure to meet you after a considerable amount of time I've taken. So I would rather uh, have a small apology for that because there is certain other things I needed to concentrate on. So coming to the topic which I want to enlighten or point out here, enlist here is that about education system and the perception of a nation as a superpower. Two distinct topics. So let us focus on education first. Education in this world, and particularly, let us concentrate on India in particular, and generally around what is the norms, what is the trend going on in the world, how it is effective in one sense, and it may not be overall not very uh, healthy for the populace or population going forward in future. Coming to the India, around we have a total allocated budget of $600 billion. In that, you have around 98 or something $billion for education sector. So education sector is around 4.1 or 4.13, according to the reports, if I'm right. Percentage of GDP is spent on uh, education. Rest I can say defense is according to the CIPRI, it is around 2.3. It's okay having a you are having a adversaries like Pakistan and China in your border. On both sides, it is understandable. But what I want to point out here is that the education sector in India, in a bottom level, I'm not talking about top level, from bottom level, is lacking infrastructure, is lacking the quality, and the pricing of the high quality, like in healthcare, is too high. Capitation or fees where you pay, for example, in a country like Finland, is waived off. There is no social security benefits in India as such, because understandably, India is a middle income country which with a population of 1.4 billion. But what you can do is to reduce certain, you have to have a price cap instead of cutthroat competition from various schools and other institutions. So talking further about taking further about this, when you spend 4.13% of your GDP, you need to increase it, and you need to include wholesome curriculum like emerging technologies, at least up to higher standards. And what are your investment in your critical technologies in education? For example, China leads in a patent application, 1.6 million, compared to even United States, which has 500,000. Where is India in this? Nowhere in the picture. So India needs to increase the research and development. R&D is also very less compared to its peer countries, what it thinks, what India thinks, or India is positioning itself as a future superpower. In that case, your R&D is just $14 billion or something. I mean, very less compared to what US or China or any other country, EU as a bloc, is spending. A patent application by WIPO reported that India is nowhere in the competition. It is like China is around 1.6, uh, Japan is around 400,000, and US is around 500. China is beating rest of the world in patent application and R&D. So R&D, you have 14 billion in education sector. China has spent is spending around $700 billion, shy of US. Uh, China's total budget is around 4 trillion, around seven times that of India. But percentage wise also, India is lagging behind. India is nowhere near in R&D with China or any other peer competitors. India's top, according to QS university ranking, topmost IITs rank 123rd. That is IITs and others comes in that list after 100. So top is all top 10 or 20 is either dominated by Western countries or Far East Asia combined. So you need to up the ante in both the lower education, where the entrance fees, the entry for the masses who need to be educated, need to be more accessible, and the public-private partnership is also encouraged, like in US or some other countries. You can do a mixture of all those things. I think so. The policymakers should come out with the apt answer for this, because the fees structure of so-called high-end education uh, institutions are so exorbitantly high that average person cannot afford that for his child. So coming to the overall scenario, that is what is education sector. So why these education sector may future produce better R&D, better filing of application of patents and R&D, and leading in critical technologies. Today, around the Australian Institute of Strategic Policy has stated that around 70 in 77 critical emerging future technologies, China has 67 in the whole, like telecommunication, hypersonic flights, and even quantum computing, quantum flight, quantum science, and so on and so forth. Even the gap of artificial intelligence and quantum computing is being reduced between US and China. China is catching up to that point. Rest of the world is just falling apart, and it is not anywhere near. These are the only two. So other large country being India, apart from these two, needs to do a lot of catch up, lot of investment in R&D, higher education, and easy accessibility, and customized education system, which I will talk. So what is customized education? Customized education, like in Finland, which has about 6.4 or 6.5% of its GDP to the education system, as I told earlier, has little to no tuition fees in its uh, school institute policies. So India can put a pricing cap on these private players who give such a, just an idea which I am uh, giving my suggestions, so that the uh, better quality education is accessible to all. Moreover, improvement of lower education in a rural sector by improving the infrastructure of the local government schools with the private partnership will also go on with a long way to improve this quality of education. And particularly, all the areas should be concentrated, but in STEM, that is science, technology, mathematics, engineering, these also should be given importance. But again, I'm coming to point is that each person in a population, the population is not homogeneous. The population is heterogeneous, meaning each individual has each liking or capabilities. So education system should cater to individualized, customized, um, specialized schools should be set up like this for by the government, or a specific kind of a schooling system, like in Finland. You can just emit, or you can just take an inspiration from that and customize, so that not only you will get in STEM, that is science. You will get in arts, fine arts. We will get in sports. So each you see China again. I am very bored of taking the same example. Chinese China was number two in Olympic overall, last Olympic, and also previous Tokyo Olympic also. The reason being Paris Olympic and Tokyo Olympic. The reason being they give as much as importance to all the sectors, whether it is STEM. If you are into sports, from childhood they tend to nourish you in that field. So similarly, India should not make a Coca-Cola manufacturing bottle factory. Not everybody are in the same line or capabilities. You should customize. This is one important factor I want to highlight. Coming to the general scenario of education is without any morality, any humanity, just to make survival. I'm connecting you with spirituality here. Spirituality doesn't mean always you will be a mystic or meditative. I am telling spiritualism comes under the umbrella of being a complete human being. In essence, not only are you capable in your material survival, but you are personally capable of not hurting, not being vulgar, not being so what do you call rude, rash. You understand, you empathize, humanities, moral senses, and certain values from certain high spiritual thinking, from certain spiritual path like Upanishads or Buddhism, Jainism, or Christianity, whatever. You can inculcate those ideas. You can bring it and give it to the students, whichever stream they are, because maybe the capabilities of each students in material survival may be different, but what you need to empathize on other human beings, what you can teach on others, how to behave or how to be in the how to be conversant, how to be very in tune, aligned with nature, how to be in a basic example, not be rude with your neighbor, to how to transact with the world in a proper manner should be taught. You can bring in social reformers, you can bring in philosophers, but these people can guide the students or a society in a very early age, so that you don't become a work machine or a money making machine, rather than a full-fledged human being along with these capabilities. This is not an idealistic way I am talking. This may sound idealistic, but this is reality we are lacking. That is why today we produce such a leaders, whether it is corporate or political leaders. We produce very, I am sorry to say, very shady kind of personalities, bullies who think I am right, whatever I do I am right, or person who just targets, or who doesn't have any empathy towards others. These are all basic need which separates humans from animals. But humans are acting like animals. That the reason is, one of the reasons, there are many, one of the main reason is education system from the childhood is not very matured. It teaches you how to survive. More so, it teaches out outdated war and what is the what is the date of invasion of certain kingdom to on certain kingdom. So you have to remember the date in history class. So instead of that, if you teach why the war happened, how can the war be avoided, what led to this. This is one example I'm taking. So there are many things like this one can ascribe to moral teachings, moral and humanities. You can inculcate best of all the spiritual teaching. It's not that one kind of thinking should be pushed. Again, there will be a fight of religion there. So you can take a combo of a good best of all religious teachings or spiritual teaching. Spirituality is nothing but religion refined. So that if you do, then I think so most of our behavioral science tend to come from the very early age. So from there, if you bring up these or tend to push over this, then you will nurture a better humanity in future than the present one. So coming to the superpower aspect, why every country want to ask is dreaming to be a superpower? Well, in 1800s, 1890s, when Britain was at its peak in Victorian era, US was coming out of a civil war and it emerged in 1870s, I'm sorry, and it almost overtook the empire by 1910s. What happened was World War I and World War II, the interwar periods. Britain was financially weakened and it could not run the empires. So by 1940s or 50s, it lost all after the World War II. It lost biggest empires, namely India. It had to do so because it didn't have any means. So where was the wealth transferred? Wealth was transferred to United States. So US was the only country in the World War which was not affected by the World War directly, except for the Pearl Harbor incident. Of course, it was very damaging, but it didn't hit the mainland US, as most of the Europe in mainland Europe was destroyed by Nazi Germany. Again, Nazi Germany, rise of Nazi Germany was again a promise by Der Führer Hitler that German pride and German supremacy. I don't want to use the other term because it's very debatable. German, let's keep it German. German will rule, Germania will rule for 1,000 years. Reich will rule for 1,000 years. Well, they didn't do that for even 20, 30 years. So that is the history. History teaches us nothing is permanent, whether in individual ambition or the country's ambition. So that being a hegemonic power is not a very right, in my opinion, to aspire for, rather than a good state which is both welfare and also it is not only just welfare, it is also a state which can be a role model for others to follow, not dominating any other nations overtly. Financial rule and system cannot be imposed by one nation on many other a group of nations. Will of one country cannot be followed. This is the superpower. Rather than being a real guide for the world, a country needs to be shown as a role model. We have seen Rome splitting into two. We have seen Ottoman Empire come and rise. We have seen Greece and also Soviet Union, which disintegrated during Mikhail Gorbachev's era after Perestroika. We have seen many other empires go by. British, as I told, after Suez Canal blockade. Financially and reputation-wise, Britain was destroyed. The wealth was transferred to US. US got the manufacturing. There is a similarity now. The manufacturing of US, Europe and others was done in a mass level by United States. Later, United States became a manufacturing super hub. Then technological super hub. You can see the pattern. Again, United States outsourced all the manufacturing to China, which is doing the same thing. But US wants to contain China. China is rising like a hegemony in its own rights. But US was a real hegemony in that it is mostly into the wars with other nation in its 250 years of existence. more wars than any other nations. So you can name a few, which is Vietnam War, Korean War, World War II, of course, Korean, then followed Korean, Vietnam, then many other Cold War proxy wars like Cuba and Bay of Pigs War, and many other wars. They have n number of wars: Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq. So there are many wars. So this is again transfer, flight of capital and flight of other transfer of wealth um by US to China due to cheap labor. The cheap labor transformed itself into a high-tech manufacturing power hub. Now, what Britain did faced with US and US extorted from Britain, same US is now the Britain, the new power hub. So, I remember from one of the English poet, again I told in my previous videos, William Butler Yeats, civilizations may come and go, but the great mystics in Mount Meru beat down. Goodbye Rome, goodbye Greece. After the day comes night. Mystic know they beat down upon their bodies in the snow. So they know it is temporary. So these are all the temporary phenomena of superpower. It is not a permanent crown, but a welfare nation which looks after its people, which does correct policies, which implements correct policies, and a different kind of international system or order is in need of our a current order, which might makes right, which has been throughout the human history, but I don't think so. It is very correct. Will be a better for all the people. The governments may have certain ambition, but I think so. They are giving people as a sacrificial lamb. So, they invoke or they provoke people for this overt patriotism, hyper patriotism, like Hitler did. And then you have the result. So, I hope so. This will not be the case for any other nations to follow. Don't follow this model, particularly some of the countries, emerging countries, maybe China or India or Brazil, any country. Don't try to be hegemonic in your nature. Rather, try to be aligned with multilateralism, uh, go along with the world, uh, try to look for peace rather than dominate over other, and encourage good growth for any other entity or nation. This is my message. This is Narendra. Hope you subscribe my channel and like, and I would like to see you with different topics. Bye.